Please do, but you couldn't do it. I think we're live. We're live somewhere.
All
An error
right.
occurred. Hold on. It says end stream. Go. Okay. We're live now. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest, returning guest. Her name is Julia. She operates the Cosmic Peach podcast. Check it out. I was just on there. We were talking about Dave McGowan's book, Program to Kill, as well as some other topics. And so when I was talking to her, this was about 2-3 weeks ago, I said, hey, you should come on my show because I had heard she had done a lot of episodes on another of McGowan's books, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops, and the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream. And so she said yes. So we scheduled this for today. And I was listening to her on Sam Tripoli's show, Tinfoil Hat. She was talking to him about the book. So I was just trying to reacquaint myself, look through the book again. But there's a lot more. When we were talking about Program to Kill, she had said there was like all these deaths surrounding weird scenes that either I didn't notice or that skipped my mind. But there's a lot of dark stuff that happened in Laurel Canyon. There was actually something that happened fairly recently, which is this weird house burning. And maybe Julia knows more about that. But this weird house burning of a Rothschild guy, of a literal
What?
Rothschild heir who was found dead after a mysterious fire engulfed a 2-story hillside home. And I think it was up in Laurel Canyon or either the Hollywood Hills or somewhere nearby that. But
So there are still weird scenes coming from
yeah,
inside the canyon,
still
it
weird.
appears.
It sure seems like it. So I'm pretty sure it was in Laurel Canyon. So a desirable place. A lot of celebrities live up there to this day. And we were talking in the pre-show just kind of about Yosemite. I
Mm-hmm.
used to work in Yosemite. And also I was kind of showing off my signed copy of Dave McGowan's Weird Scenes book. So let me see if I can pull
Lucky
that up.
dog.
Yeah, can you believe it? I went to the reason I got it is I went to the book signing when he was at Book Soup. So it's kind of like one of the last independent bookstores here in Los Angeles. So I think it was 2015, something like that. And so I was there kind of watching this. So this is my kind of flex right here, as my daughter would call it. My flex. It says, to William, hope you enjoy the book, Dave McGowan. I've confirmed that this is his handwriting. Other people have got signed copies. But anyway, I was at Book Soup, and I think he got sick fairly soon after that. And I remember kind of talking to him after the book discussion. I met his brother, too, who I used to be friends with when I was on Facebook. We used to communicate all the time. His brother was there, Greg. And I saw Dave's chain smoking, too. So I was like, hey, man, this is not good. Like, you shouldn't be sucking down cigarette after cigarette like that. And he died.
Chugging the butts. Yeah.
Like in a kind of, not a casual kind of like, I'm having a smoke, like, and then taking another drag every 30 seconds. It was like some pretty intense, cigarette smoking. At least
I mean, the guy was definitely... it's almost like he was tortured because he was the only person really talking about this stuff, and then even with the Program to Kill, I feel like he was kind of like a tortured soul. And then I don't know about you, William, but I don't think his death was as cut and dry as they make it out.
His brother doesn't think that it was a normal sickness. So according to his own brother.
Either.
So I mean, he was McGowan was way ahead of his time. And I've heard other shows people try to take apart Program to Kill or this book. But I've seen people like attack Program to Kill, mock it, ridicule it.
Oh, I know.
And it's just
it's crazy because it's so easy to go and like look at the stuff he said in the book and find actual supporting evidence. And I would tell anybody out there who doesn't have time to sit down and read the entire book. I don't know if I could post this in the chat. Let me see. Yeah. Is everyone able to see this chat?
Yeah, let me bring it up. All right, let me bring up the website.
Okay. So it's called Center for an Informed America.com. And if you go under features on the top under the drop downs, you can read several things. They're all blogs from Dave, and they essentially just sum up what's in the book. But if you click, there's like I can't even see how many parts, like 8 to 10 parts here of
22
his blog.
Laurel Canyon, yeah, 22.
Oh, 22. Okay. So if you don't have time to read the entire book, but you just want snippets, I would recommend reading his blog. And this is where I found a lot of the people on the Laurel Canyon death list was from this blog. And Dave also did a great job on this website doing stuff about Lincoln, 9/11, the fake moon landing. It's called Moondoggy. And then the Boston Marathon bombings are also available on this website. And I think that, it's like you said, he was so ahead of his time. And even if you didn't want to sit down and read an entire book, just kind of skimming through these blogs, it's just like incredible amount of information. I mean, he just lays it out buffet style for everyone, and it's incredible. Actually, a friend of mine sent me this website, and it was the first time I had ever heard of Dave McGowan. So if you're just getting started and you want to just dip your toe in the water, this website, the Center for an Informed America.com, is a great place to get started. And what I've tried to do ever since I discovered the weird scenes from inside the canyon is kind of expand on it a little bit with, it's like you said, current events, because Dave's not around to talk to us about it anymore. So we kind of have to be our own investigators. And it just never stops. Weird stuff keeps happening and weird stuff keeps coming out. And one person in particular, I don't know if you want to talk about this first or the body count, but one person in particular that Dave very briefly touched on, but I've expanded on with my research, is John Denver. And he's very briefly mentioned in even this blog. It says something about like, oh well, John Denver, his real name is Henry John Duchendorf or something like that, and he's actually German. And he just kind of leaves it at there. But a lot of people might not put John Denver in with the rest of the Laurel Canyon crowd, but he was definitely a part of it. He performed his first hit ever leaving on a jet plane with Mama Mama Cass introduced him, and he performed it for like some kind of a show where the mamas and the papas were there. So he was definitely a folk singer that was hanging around in and around the canyon. And he did have friends like Mama Cass, and was hanging around with all the rest of the cast of characters. And John Denver's dad was actually, hang on, let me pull my notes up because I want to give you the exact thing. Okay.
Let's see if I can pull this over.
Yeah, give me just a second because I have this whole thing on John Denver that I was writing just some random notes down, and I felt like it was important for people to know. So
he was in the same theme of weird scenes, right?
Yeah. Well, his real name is Henry John Duchendorf, and his dad's name was Henry John Duchendorf Sr., and he was a Roswell Army airfield captain, and he won a bunch of awards, and he was a decorated pilot. And it turns out that John Denver grew up on Roswell Army Airfield. So when we're talking about Laurel Canyon stuff, all of their dads are somehow military. And if we were going to pick like what would be the most obvious one that's got like crazy stuff, I'm going to go ahead and pick Roswell or Presidio maybe, but Roswell Army Airfield. And I think a lot of people overlook John when they're doing Laurel Canyon stuff because he doesn't really associate himself with the rest of the crew, but he was definitely in there. And he grew up on Roswell Airfield base, and then his dad is like a decorated pilot. He's a captain, and some weird numbers kind of surround him. If you look at even that second paragraph there on Wikipedia, approximately 300 songs and 33, he sold 33 million units. And there was another something in there.
33 albums.
33 albums, yeah. So if you even Wikipedia can't hide like the weirdness with this guy. 300 songs, 33 albums, 33 million units sold. His dad is a Roswell Army, Air Force captain. And something that also people like to forget about John Denver, because I don't know about you, William, but I'm a huge fan. I grew up listening to John Denver. I love all that, that stuff. So it's hard to differentiate sometimes your idols from the crazy stuff. And it just happens to be that the bigger they are and the more you love them, the creepier they are.
Yeah, no, he has a strange background. There's no question. Those songs are so Americana too. Rocky Mountain High. Thank God I'm a country boy.
Well, country even if you look at the lyrics to Rocky Mountain High, he mentions something about he was born in the summer of his 27th year.
Coming home to a place he'd never been before. Right,
so
which is
I think
paradoxical too. Yeah.
Right, his lyrics are even kind of encoded. Yeah. So his wife Annie said that he had a violent side, which sounds like who? She actually said that he could flip on a switch, which was very reminiscent for me of Frank Zappa, because they always said like there was this artistic side of him that made music and everybody loved him, but at home he was like an authoritarian, kind of aggressive kind of guy. He chainsawed their bed in half one time when they were fighting. And he's kind of known to have beat his wife's ass. And so you would think this guy, John Denver, who's singing about rainbows and butterflies and sunshine and flapjacks, like you wouldn't think at home he was chainsawing people's beds in half and beating his wife's ass. But just like Frank Zappa, there was like a completely different side to him. And he did have kind of like that authoritarian personality. But later on in life, he gets real political. And he starts working on, I believe it's the Republican Party. He befriends one, let me see here. He gets involved with the LGBT scene in the 90s, and he's in support of the LGBT stuff. And he campaigned actually for Jimmy Carter. And then as he kind of goes along in his political career, he gets elected to the board of governors for one of NASA's programs. And let me look and see what it was called here. He served on the National Space Society's board of governors for many years. And he was also awarded, let's see here. He was awarded the NASA Exceptional Public Service Medal, which is usually restricted to only spaceflight engineers and designers. But somehow this country folk singer who started his careers, in the Laurel Canyon, gets all the way up through politics. Now he's on the board of governors for the National Space Society, and he's getting all these awards and recognition. And I just, it seems odd to me. I don't know where you are with like NASA being a big black magic operation, William, but I tend to lean that way. I think that they've got some nefarious stuff going on, and Denver was absolutely obsessed with NASA, and he tried to get himself involved in it in any way that he possibly could. I mean, what do you think about NASA?
I think it's a state operation, so I think, to keep up the whole myth about the moon landing is incredible for that much time. So I think
Right,
there's a lot of
right.
forms, yeah.
Do you think we've been to space?
Well, into like deep outer space on a manned
Or like even
expedition.
to the moon?
No, of course not. No way.
I
I
don't
used
think
to
so
think
either.
so. I used to accepted that as a fact, and it was a hard one. It was a lot
Right.
easier for me to think of 9/11 as an inside job than the
Then the
moon, and
moon
then
landing?
and
Right.
then
But
it
if
was
you
like
look into
the Van
Kubrick at
Allen
all,
belt.
it's
Yeah.
right. And I think even, well, that's a whole nother episode. But so the Citizens in Space program was John Denver's idea. He pioneered the Citizens in Space program. Nobody knows about this and nobody talks about it. The first ever Citizens in Space program was started by John Denver's idea. He wanted to be on a citizen's flight to the moon. And so they put together a crew, and he passed all these rigorous tests to be one of the first citizen civilians in space. And it was actually the Challenger mission. This was John Denver's brainchild, the freaking
Uh,
Challenger mission. And
wow.
then, just like, and you brought it up a second ago, you know how they say Seth MacFarlane was supposed to get on the plane for 9/11, but he didn't last minute? So last minute, he's about to get all of his spacesuit on to get on the Challenger and he's going to go up into space, and he backs out, and they replaced him with Krista McAuliffe, the school teacher, and he doesn't go on the first citizens flight into space. And just so happened it was the big fiery crash and they all died. And then he wrote that song Flying for Me, because he said they were flying for me, they wouldn't have even been up there if it wouldn't have been my idea to put them up there. And I mean, that to me just seems extremely ritualistic. It's like, oh, okay, John, it's your idea. You put all this into motion. You were going to get it going. And then all of a sudden you back out last minute and everybody dies. There are a lot of theories that nobody actually died that day. And everybody on the Challenger flight actually is still alive and they became like university professors. Have you seen that?
Yeah, there's like various pictures of these people that look very similar to them. So it's
Like that
curious.
Judith Resnick one. They've found her at a university. There's a guy, Richard Scobie. He's got some kind of a company with the logo that looks just like the Challenger blowing up. And it's up for debate. And I'm not telling you that's 100% what happened, but it seems more than likely that these people didn't even die in the Challenger flight, if you want my opinion. But
There's a
it
guy
it
out there who looks exactly like Timothy McVeigh, like in his state government
right.
job. Have you seen that? I
Yeah, I
mean,
did
the
see
age
that.
and stuff, it's like almost a carbon copy. Like,
Yeah,
did he not
yeah.
die too? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time some of these people fake their deaths, or deaths
Well,
are
wouldn't
faked.
it be something though, William, if the point of them blowing up the Challenger with the citizen space thing was to say, like, we can't let civilians go to space because look
Sure.
what happened? It was almost like a scare tactic because we can't really get to space. They
Let's wind down
program
NASA, right? Let's wind down NASA too.
right,
Like
right.
it's
So it's like
expensive and all this stuff. Yeah.
they have to program the general public to believe you have to become an astronaut to get into space. And like who knows what the people I think they're all actors. I think it's all like some kind of a state that even they said there's a couple of astronauts that are supposedly stuck in space right now. You know what
Hmm.
I'm talking about?
No, I'm not familiar with that. No, I don't
All
know.
right, so they say that there's a couple of people that are stuck in space right now, and that they went up there in like June or something. They've just been up there ever since, and they can't get back. But somehow they took a video of themselves to send to their families for Christmas, and they had Christmas hats on. Why the fuck would they have Christmas hats on the space shuttle if they left in June and were planning to be up there for a couple of weeks and come back? I mean, this is the stuff that they want us to believe, William. It's just absolute theater stuff. And
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that in tons of theater. I mean,
yeah.
isn't the mass media just total theater at this point? Like, I think that
Oh
anybody
yeah.
who thinks they just know it's like I'm literally watching some of these TV shows and I feel like I'm watching V for Vendetta. It's such obviously transparent propaganda. It's like a
I
joke.
know. 100%. And so the thing for me with John Denver and his obsession with NASA, it could really come from his dad being a real high up in Roswell and stuff. And maybe he saw or heard stuff from his father and he knew that they were trying to do stuff like that and he did get obsessed with NASA, who knows. But I don't think we've ever been to the moon. I think this whole citizen space flight thing was like a staged weird event. And John Denver did actually end up dying in a jet plane crash in the 90s. And there's a lot of speculation on whether or not he even died and he was just kind of like repurposed in some other type of like classified project.
Wow. I just like the same thing. Even Morrison, right? Passes through Laurel Canyon and then
Mm-hmm.
27 Club, and like that's a sketchy death too. Like, what a great way to finish your career. Is like he felt like he was done and going to France supposedly for a hiatus, but what a great way to just bookend it. Fake your
I
death
don't
and become
think
famous.
Jim died at all that
Wow, wow.
yeah on that trip. I mean, I think he was repurposed as well. I think a lot of the people that we see are just characters who are playing a role and that they can get repurposed. I think they can kill off a character. They can kill off the character of Jim Morrison, sure, but the actual person can be repurposed in another way. And I think
Do you
even
think the Doors wrote their own music?
no, I
Mm,
don't. I
no.
think maybe like wasn't it the guitarist who wrote most of the good songs anyways,
Krieger?
like Light My Fire, and
Yeah,
I
I think I
think
remember
Jim Morrison wrote um Break On Through or maybe
Break
one
On Through to
song
the
that
Other Side, yeah.
yeah. But really I don't know where they were getting their music from. I don't the sound of the counterculture music scene was so completely different from what was popular before that. It almost makes you wonder if they weren't experimenting with like binaural beats in junction with using psychedelic drugs and opening up parts of your mind that would expose you to whatever it was that they were trying to do. I mean, think about it, William. We
Do you
have
know? Do you know what's strange about the Doors? Based on Huxley, who wanted to create this kind of psychedelic era, who invented the word psychedelic too. And then the Doors picks that stuff up. It's so strange. And then they write this music that, beyond the sophistication of their years, much like the Beatles. The Beatles, I'm 100% convinced, didn't write any of their music. I
well,
mean, there
they're
was no,
Tavistock
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think George Martin did everything, did all the composing, or really was kind of like the director of all their music and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah. And I mean, there are people who will say that, the real Paul died a long time ago and his character was replaced by someone else too. Um, like a look-alike kind of guy replaced him.
It's not
And
the same guy. You can watch the video for Strawberry Fields Together. It's not the original McCartney. There's no
no,
way.
dude, and whoever replaced him was way taller,
Huh.
had a different I think, and it would be really easy to almost get a little bit of plastic surgery done to tweak a few features, but you can't tweak someone's height, and he's
You,
way taller.
eye color, palate,
Mhm.
like the shape of your, like the skull and the palate where your teeth are, the upper teeth. They can't do anything with that.
No, they
And it's
can't.
thinner than the original McCartney. And also McCartney had kind of a different kind of face. Like he smiled a lot. The original McCartney was actually, I think that's why they probably picked him, is because he had a kind of ebullient kind of personality. Like he had a real
Mhm.
charismatic, and the new one doesn't like that at all.
Right, yeah, and whoever they replaced the real Paul with was actually really talented. He could play way more instruments than the first Paul, and so they did a good job, and the Beatles are iconic and they forever will be, but the reason why people love the Beatles and the reason why people love the music that came out of the counterculture movement is because the CIA knows what they're doing.
Right.
It
These old families.
what do they say, sin feels good. They get results from stuff like this. It's a trap, and it's a trap for a reason because it feels great to listen to this stuff, and it sounds wonderful and everybody loves it. It's literally a trap.
But it's
And
the
then you
way for culture change through music is really more effective than writing. That's what people listen to. The Beatles were the most
right.
effective change agents in human history.
Well, what do you think about there? So a lot of people speculate that the big old plane crash that killed Buddy Holly and the day the music died, this was
Richie
almost
Valens,
like
Buddy Holly, and the Big Baller. Yeah.
Big Bopper, yeah. It was almost like a ushering in of this counterculture movement because we had like such a more simplistic music style with those guys, It was like American Graffiti style, innocent type of music, and then there was a plane crash, and then all of a sudden all these weirdos start flocking to the canyon, and almost overnight people are on the free love train, and it went from music like Buddy Holly, kind of innocent, to if you can't be with the one you want, then be with the one you're with, and it's just kind of like sex, drugs, rock and roll overnight
Yeah, and
almost.
within a decade, like from the beginning
Hmm.
of the 60s to the end is like radical change.
Right.
So
And
what
that's when they unrolled the freaking serial killer program too, because we got Charlie Manson, big Laurel Canyon guy. Dennis Wilson had the guy living with him, and Neil Young would sing his praises, just loved him to death. And then the Zodiac rolled out in the 60s too. And I just the two books, Programmed to Kill and Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, they dovetail because those two things were happening at the same time. All the main big serial killers, the ones that made serial killing, that was the 60s, and the counterculture movement is the 60s. So you can't have one without the other. And the counterculture movement was pushing women to be more independent and to be more free and equal to men, and go be yourself, and go your own way. And as soon as they did that, there was serial killers like Ted Bundy that was killing them. So it was very counterintuitive, because Ted was in the late 60s, early 70s, wasn't he?
I don't know the exact dates. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, that
I'm
seems to make sense. He's
pretty
part of
sure.
he's part of the serial killer rise. There's no question about it.
And so they're telling these women to go out and be free and independent, and be by themselves, and then they send people like Ted Bundy out there to kill them. So it just, what a fucking time. Oh, sorry. But what a time to be alive,
Yeah.
it's many programs going on at the same time. And I do have the list pulled up here.
Yeah, Bundy's 69 to 75.
Okay, yeah. So like the very last of the 60s going into the 70s. I mean, it's crazy. And so I have this list here from Dave's blog. So if anybody wants to fact check me, they're totally fine to do that, because you can find it right there in the blog. But it's part 3 of Dave's blog on the Laurel Canyon, and yeah, you could probably pull it up right here. So yeah, Marina Elizabeth Habe. Uh, and by the way, before I even get started on this death list here, this is the same, in and around the same area where the Black Dahlia was murdered many years earlier. And you get to start looking into the Hodel family, and they're all the way messed up. Are you familiar with like George Hodel?
Yes, very much so. I've listened to those interviews with his son.
Oh, okay, good. I think he has a podcast or something where he
He
talks
was a
about it.
guest. He did a book, and then I think he was a guest on a lot of people. But maybe he has a podcast. I'm not aware of it.
Well, it seems very ritualistic, and it seems like the Hodel family was incestuous, just like John Phillips and the rest of
I
them.
think it's confirmed incestuous. Like his daughter,
Right.
the guy was a sex beast or whatever. The
Weirdo.
father, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, this first one that it lists here, Marina Elizabeth Habe, it reminded me of the Black Dahlia, but she wasn't cut up or anything, but her body, well, so she wasn't dissected, I should say, but she was carved up, and then she was tossed into the heavy brush along Mulholland Drive. And if anybody is a David Lynch fan out there, there is Mulholland Drive. Are you familiar with David Lynch at all?
Yeah, he just passed away. Yeah.
Yeah, he did yesterday. So shout out to David Lynch, but Mulholland Drive is a cool movie if you want to just, have something Laurel Canyon-esque kind of horror type movie. But yeah, so this Marina was tossed out on Mulholland Drive. She was carved up. It was very Black Dahlia-esque. And of course, her murderer was never found, so they just chalked that one up to the Laurel Canyon body list. And then it says Christine Hinton was killed in a head-on collision, and at the time Hinton was a girlfriend of David Crosby, and she was also the daughter of a career Army officer stationed at the Presidio base. And
yeah, David Van
Crosby,
Cortlandt taught Crosby, right?
Right. So Crosby himself could be a whole episode just talking about him, but like I think that's interesting that one of his first girlfriends there is part of the Laurel Canyon death list. Then it just says Jane Doe 59 found dumped into the heavy undergrowth of Laurel Canyon, November 1969. And it says within sight of where what's her name? Marina Habe had been dumped less than a year earlier. And she had been stabbed 157 times in the chest and throat. So this goes beyond like somebody getting stabbed once or shot or suffocated. I mean, for me, if you're going to stab somebody 157 times in the chest and throat, we're talking about this goes beyond, a drug deal gone wrong or prostitution, prostitution or something like that. And then it's Alan Blind Owl Wilson from Canned Heat. He was supposedly a suicide OD. But I believe like a lot of the ones that they rule suicide ODs, they're usually not suicides at all. Kind of like Hunter S. Thompson. I don't think he committed suicide either. I think, Jeffrey Epstein didn't commit suicide. You name it. Who else? Janis Joplin. I don't think these people are committing suicide at all. And then, of course, Jimi Hendrix is on the list, and there is a ton of information on the blog in regards to Jimi Hendrix. Are you pretty certain he's deceased, or?
I would say Hendrix was murdered. I think
Okay.
I've talked to Brad Schreiber about it. He wrote a book about the 27 Club, and like somebody gave him an incredible amount overdose, like just a deadly lethal overdose of barbiturates or something. So
I 100% agree with that. I do know that there is a theory that floats around that Jimi Hendrix is Morgan Freeman, but I don't see it myself, and I could be wrong, I guess, but I do think he was murdered. And he is a part of the 27 Club, and even the next person on the list after Jimi Hendrix is, of course, Jim Morrison, which I don't think that he died. But he was involved in the occult. It says it right here on the blog. He had a fondness for the work of Aleister Crowley. His dad, started the Tonkin Gulf incident, and the Vietnam War ensued afterwards. I mean, talk about someone who is just totally enmeshed in the fabric of the Laurel Canyon is this guy. 100%.
100%.
Did you watch the movie? What's his name? Val Kilmer?
Yeah, The Doors by
The
Oliver
Doors.
Stone. Yeah.
Don't you think like it would make an even cooler movie to tell the real story about Jim Morrison? Like his dad was a CIA guy, and like I don't know. I think that would make a better movie.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, his dad was a 4-star admiral. I mean, I thought he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a chump. So it is interesting, like his background. But I did a
They
book.
love to
Yeah,
sell the narrative, though. Like he was just an outlaw, rock and roll, just went rogue, and it just for me, I don't think it was really like that. I think the story is quite different from what they sell us.
yeah, he underwent some kind of personality change very rapidly. If you see some of his early teen pictures, he looks like a kid from the 50s, clean cut, suit
Yep,
and tie, all
yep.
that stuff. So it's kind
He
of
was
ridiculous.
also good friends with Jay Sebring, who died in the Tate murders. So, I mean, they're all enmeshed together. It was a tiny scene. I know it seems like when people talk about the Laurel Canyon, like it was just this vast, expanding, area, and but it was tight. It was close knit. They had parties at each other's houses. They were all friends. Mama Cass's house was a big hangout spot. Sharon Tate used to go there. They used to, do drugs and listen to music. They knew each other. Roman Polanski. Now, I don't know how much you know about weird stuff with Roman Polanski, but he was involved in the Process Church, and um Sharon had some weird fling with Sebring, and there was a weird love triangle going on. And when the police went through the house after the Tate murders, they found stuff like with people coming over to the Tate house and running train on Sharon, and people just taking turns on her, and he was filming all of this. There was like wife swapping stuff. And you look at Rosemary's Baby, and it just, to me, there isn't, you can't cover enough stuff about the Laurel Canyon. It's like once you open one door, you can go like 100 different ways with it. And I think, like I said before, it's just all interconnected and weird. And
She was
I
with
mean,
Sebring before Polanski, so they were like
right.
known item. Yeah.
Now, do you think that so Sharon Tate's dad was an intelligence
Yeah,
asset too?
yeah, yeah. Naval intelligence, if I remember correctly.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. And so do you think that was, an inside job, that, or because it clearly wasn't just Charlie Manson went crazy and a bunch of people showed up to the house and killed him. That's the last possibility on the list for me.
I think that they were hit. Like Ed Sanders did a lot of research. He was on site at the Manson trials and things like that, and in connection with, talking to Maury Terry and all this stuff. But I
Mhm.
think that he had the best take, which is they were paid hits for some reason. Both Tate had to go, or somebody at that house had to go. I think Sharon Tate was not supposed to be there, so I think that they may have tried to get somebody else at that house. And then the other hit that happened the night after, the Italian guy in Los
La
Feliz,
Bianca.
yeah, La Bianca murders. They're made to look like occult hits, but I think there was money paid. And I think that
Mhm.
they had evidence that there was some kind of transference money bag that they had, which was very rare for them, who were like living out of garbage cans and things like that. So I think that,
Right, right.
and I think Charlie never disclosed it. I think he just kept his mouth shut about his criminal. He had the criminal ethos of keeping your mouth shut. And he's an occultist, full on new, Scientologists and member of the OTO, probably
Mhm.
through the Solar Temple. So
Oh, yeah.
he knew the secret societies and all that stuff. And he was a clear Scientologist. So he
Mhm.
had gone through all of Scientology. He doesn't disclose that. He actually uh he knew hypnotism too, by the way. A lot of people don't
Yes.
know that. So he famously hypnotized this Latino actor, whatever his name is. Is it Eddie Lopez or something like that? Oh, Danny
So
Trejo. There's a video online of Danny Trejo saying he got in jail, was hypnotized by Charles Manson. So I think that he knew how to mind control his whole squad. He was like 10 years,
for
12 years
sure, I
older.
think that's what they were doing at the Spawn Movie Ranch. They had like a military style setup at the Spawn Movie Ranch. It wasn't like hippy dippy, smoking weed and sitting around playing the guitar. They had like dune buggies and like guns, and that it was like a military compound. So God only knows what he was really up to. And that Lino LaBianca guy, he was involved with like mobster type stuff,
yeah.
and he owed like $250,000 in gambling debts, and
Huge
they like to
debts.
leave that out of the story too.
Yeah, they leave that out. He was also very wealthy. He was a millionaire. So
Mm-hmm.
how is this guy with like I think he was like his cover was a grocer or something like that.
Right.
Like I think he had a grocer, but how do you make that much money when you're selling fruits and vegetables? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So
So
there's
they
a
say
lot of
that,
problems there.
well, and they like to go with the random acts of violence to terrify people, but it seems more, the more you look into it, the least likely scenarios it was a random act of violence for
No
both of
question.
them.
Targeted. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Targeted, no
Mm-hmm.
question.
But
And
even oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, with Manson as the kingpin, Manson directing
Right.
everything going in there. Like Manson
Mm-hmm.
went into La Bianca and tied him up, and then sent the other guys in there and said, "Do your deed." And it is interesting, like full on occult. Like they leave another thing out of the La Bianca killing is that when they wrote war in, like literally wrote it into the skin of his wife, La Bianca's wife. They wrote it like it's in a Masonic up and down, so like almost like
Right.
what do you call it? Ruler. What do they call it? The ruler and the
The
compass or
square
whatever.
and
Yeah, yeah, square
compass.
and compass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then there was that Arliss Perry, who was, they said they thought could have been a Manson disciple that killed her. And she had the same insignia carved into her. So
She had something laid out on her body like that with this the compass
oh
and the
right, it
square.
was her, when wasn't it her pants?
Yes.
They had arranged her legs and then put her pants so it looked
Yeah.
like the
It
square and
was an arranged
compass, or
murder, like a full on occult murder, really gnarly too. That's
mm-hmm.
74. That's how the Ultimate Evil starts out.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things, like I were talking to Dana Duda and stuff like that, is that these two guys are in contact with each other. Maury Terry and Sanders are like buddies. And like when Sanders wrote his book about Sharon Tate, he mentions Maury Terry multiple times, like they're in contact. And Maury Terry had some really interesting information I came across recently on an X post, is like Hubbard's a member of the OTO, like confirmed member according to Maury Terry. So these are like huge things. They're very important. Yeah.
Really? And he has that book, The Ultimate Evil.
Right. That's his book.
That's a good one if people want to read another kind of like Program to Kill, but not. Maury Terry's Ultimate Evil is really good. And I was gonna say something about Charles Manson, but it's slipping my mind now.
But it's
Maybe
interesting how
it'll.
all these things are overlapping, like just these massive murders and deaths. And
Oh, for
like Arliss
sure.
Perry was what, 74? Aleister Crowley's birthday, right? 1974.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Bundy's running
That's
around
right.
killing people. And
Yes,
I think
that is true.
the process under, is happening. The Sons of Sam is 75,
And
76.
Zodiac.
Zodiac,
Zodiac
yeah.
is
Yeah.
a big one around that time
Incredible.
too.
Incredible.
And even we hadn't even gone over like all the people on this Laurel Canyon death list, but a lot
Oh,
of
keep
them are
going. Yeah.
connected too, because like this next one, Brandon DeWild, a good friend of David Crosby and Graham Parsons, was killed in a freak accident in Colorado, July 6, 1972. So we've got David Crosby's girlfriend and one of his good friends dying, within a close time frame. Christine Furka, she was a governess for Moon Zappa, I believe. She I want to say I looked into this a little bit more, and she either overheard something or saw something, and then she died kind of shortly thereafter, because there were stories that Frank Zappa would have like naked parties with his kids and like take showers with them and do weird stuff and like have his friends come over and be naked around the kids. So for me, I really, a number of things could have happened. They say that it was a drug overdose, but that's like saying nothing to me. If somebody, she died of a drug overdose, okay, sure. To me, that's just like a easy out. Oh, well, they overdosed, nothing to see here.
Graham
And then,
Parsons is a stone cold Crowley lover, by the way. I don't know if people know
oh,
that.
really?
Yeah. He identified as a Thelemite. So he's hanging out with
Wow.
Crosby and all these other characters. Yeah. Look at his music. It's all like, Horace and all this other stuff. Like he died in a curious death too, but the Graham
Oh,
Parsons.
yeah, he did. He's actually on this list somewhere.
And then I think that they gave him some kind of like a cult send off in 1973.
Didn't they steal his body and drive it to like Joshua Tree or
Yeah,
something, and they
yeah,
burnt it on a solstice, like the
yeah.
the summer solstice or something? Yeah, so it's like stuff like this. This is the Laurel Canyon body count right here. Like it's all weird stuff. Even like this next one, Danny Whitman, guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter, with Neil Young's sometime band Crazy Horse, died of an overdose on November 18th, 1972. Another overdose death. Bruce Berry, roadie for Crosby, Stills and Nash, died of a heroin overdose, June 1973. Clarence White, guitarist with the Byrds, run over by a drunk driver on July 14th, 1973. And then it says the driver who killed him. Where does it say? At least one of White's immediate family members was employed at Edwards Air Force Base. Oh, okay. So apparently this guy who was a guitarist with the Byrds, he had military connections as well. Then, of course, as you were saying, Graham Parsons. And Dave gives us a ton of information here on that. And he died in 1973. But if you read this whole thing, it's like I said, if you don't have time to read the book, at least go back and read this blog, because he kind of just gives you enough information to give you the gist of things and the connections with these guys. He's talking about in the first paragraph here how they took his body to Joshua Tree on September 19th, 1973. So I guess it was like the fall equinox, and they burnt him up. The autumnal equinox, yep, it's right there.
There you go. Yeah.
And he was allegedly overdosed on a speedball at the Joshua Tree Inn. Graham Parsons, very cult.
Wow.
And the next one right under that is Mama Cass. Now, this one is interesting to me, and William, you can tell me what you think. But it says she choked on a ham sandwich.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm not buying that, because she was like one of those kingpins in the whole Laurel Canyon scene. And she was in the home of Harry Nilsson in London the night that she died, and they say that she got choked on a ham sandwich. I for me personally, I think that's humiliating, because they always made fun of her for being overweight, and maybe she stepped on some toes and she got killed, and they were like, oh, we'll say she big fat lady, she died choking on a ham sandwich. It's like a humiliation ritual almost. Like, who wants to go down like that?
Nobody, but she might have known too much, so
Right.
I mean, crazy. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
the amount of deaths is off the charts. It's really something else.
Right. In the blog here, Dave put under Mama Cassie said she probably died knowing where too many of the bodies were buried.
Yeah, there you go. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Then we have Amy Gossage, Graham Nash's girlfriend at the time, murdered in her San Francisco home on February 13th, 1975. She'd been stabbed nearly 50 times and was bludgeoned beyond recognition. So with a guy that's into all this occulted stuff, like you were saying, Graham Parsons, like look what they did with his body and his girlfriend ritualistically murdered, stabbed 50 times and bludgeoned beyond recognition. Like, how come more people aren't talking about that one? You know?
Right.
And again, the murderers are never found in these cases. They are either suicides or they're drug overdoses or they're cold cases. Nobody's paying for the crimes in these. There is no like justice. It just all kind of it's like the Black Dahlia. They even took George Hodel to trial for an incest trial, and they said he was the main suspect in the Black Dahlia murder. And what does he do? Like, he doesn't he like run off or something?
Yeah, he like went to Japan or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So it's like they don't even have to pay for their crimes. Really, it's all who you know.
It's Chinatown, baby. That's right. Chinatown 74 too comes out right around this time. All these people are dying. And it's like freaking Chinatown.
Is that that Amy Gossage one? Or are you
Gossage
talking about
is
Black
75,
Dahlia?
but I mean, if you Black Dahlia, I think was in the 50s or something. I think it was one of the early crimes. But these, I mean, I'm just saying, like, Chinatown comes out around all these people dying strange deaths.
Oh, right. And then the next one on the list, Phyllis Major Brown, wife of singer-songwriter Jackson Brown, reportedly overdosed on barbiturates March 25th, 1976. And she was just 30 years old. They ruled it a suicide, but Jackson Brown, another one like John Denver that people don't group in with the Laurel Canyon scene, but he definitely was. His dad was in the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA, so he's got connections for sure. And then Bobby Fuller, singer, songwriter, guitarist for the Bobby Fuller Four, was found dead in his car near Grauman's Chinese Theater on July 18th, 1966, after being lured away from his home by a mysterious 2 to 3 a.m. phone call of unknown origin. So, again, nobody goes down for this stuff. It says there were multiple cuts and bruises on his face, chest, shoulders, dried blood around his mouth, a hairline fractured to his right hand. So he clearly went down fighting. But who was he fighting?
He was in the midst of a big contract dispute with his record label. He wanted out.
He?
Yeah. So somebody might have had an interest.
Well, like,
there's a lot of stories about guys who want out of their contracts with record labels who suspiciously end up dead.
Wasn't that Sam Cooke too?
Cooke, Cobain was trying to get a new contract. All these guys are in fights, and weird that they show up dead, and then people associate. It's weird too because a lot of the people who are there in contract disputes say, "Oh yeah, of course they committed suicide. This isn't suspicious." Yeah. What do you mean suspicious? This isn't suspicious.
Go and look. Even what did they say about Sam Cooke? Like, he wanted the rights to all of his songs, and then he was found in a hotel room overdosed or something like that. So I mean, it's just, wasn't it around? No, that was the 80s. I was gonna say John Belushi was found in the Hotel Marmont. Overdosed on something, and I never thought that one sounded right to me either, but that was way later. That was the 80s, I believe. But the Chateau Marmont is in the maybe not Laurel Canyon area, but it's kind of close, isn't it?
It's a stone's throw. I think it's actually a stone's throw from the road into Laurel Canyon. It's
Isn't it Sunset, close to Sunset? Yeah. Okay, right, Sunset. Yeah. So in well, I'll get into that in a second, but the Chateau Marmont, you got people like Anton LaVey showing up. Tuesday Weld is another big witch, in my opinion, and she shows up to Chateau Marmont. I do believe that Hotel California may have been about the Chateau Marmont, but that's just my opinion, and that's another Laurel Canyon-esque with the Eagles. around that same time with the counterculture stuff. But on the death list, Gary Hinman, musician, music teacher, part-time chemist, brutally murdered in his Topanga Canyon home on July 27th, 1969. They convicted Bobby Beausoleil from the Manson family for this one. Bobby Beausoleil could be his own episode with all the weird stuff with him and the occultist filmmaker Kenneth Anger. Lot of weird stuff with Bobby Beausoleil. Lot of weird stuff
in the canyon too.
in the canyon, 100%.
Yeah.
And then they do list Janis Joplin, heroin overdose, October 4th, 1970, Landmark Hotel, as part of the Laurel Canyon death list. And I already mentioned her earlier. I do not think that she committed suicide. She was actually doing really good. They said she was doing the best she ever had been. She died at the age of 27. She's another 27 Club member. She was engaged to be married. They said she was, doing great. They were super surprised that she would have done something like that. And if you were to look at her situation, it's very, very similar to Marilyn Monroe. They said that right before Monroe, quote unquote, committed suicide, that she was at the top of her game, that she was enthusiastic about the future. She was, working on a bunch of projects, had no reason to do it. And, I've covered Marilyn at length that there's no way she could have killed herself. Even if you just look at the science and the autopsy findings, it's just absolutely, you can't even argue with me. There's no way that she killed herself. And I think it's similar with Janis. I just, for whatever reason, whether you want to call it Faustian bargain or what have you, she's on the 27 club. And, I don't know about you, William, but I don't think she killed herself.
I don't trust a lot of these looking back. I mean, these cover stories, and there's so many things that go on under the scenes, jealousies and personal animosities and things like that. Like I've done the story Bombshell, where I think, RFK's in town and has a relationship with RFK and JFK. At that time, it would have been much more scandalous than it is today if it came out.
Right.
So there's an incentive, and the LA police back then were far more conservative than they are today. So, and you can see that in the JFK murder in 68 as well. So
yeah,
it's
100.
plausible. Yeah.
And then I guess next on the list we have Dwayne Allman, Barry Oakley, lead guitarist and bass player for the Allman Brothers, were killed in a freakishly similar motorcycle crash on October 29th, 1971 and November 11th, 1972. So I guess both of them, Dwayne Allman and Barry Oakley, were killed in freakishly similar motorcycle crashes almost a year apart from each other. And they're part of the Laurel Canyon death list. And we got Phil Oakes, folk singer, songwriter, and political activist, found hanged in his sister's home in Far Rockaway, New York on April 9th, 1976. And Phil Oakes is actually a really interesting guy. And he has some kind of a weird connection, and you guys need to go back and read all of this stuff on the blog, but he has some kind of a weird connection to the serial killer / cult leader Gary Heidnik. They both went to like the same military academy, and Phil, I mean, you guys, this is why I say if you're going to dive into the Laurel Canyon, just be prepared to go on like a million different tangents. Okay. But like Gary Heidnik is mentioned in Program to Kill at a decent length, but he somehow is connected with this military academy that Phil Oakes went to. And, Phil Oakes is supposedly, he got like electroshock therapy and stuff. And he was, it's just weird. And if you even look right here in these notes that McGowan kind of tries to give you some general information about Phil Oakes, it goes on for some length. And at the end of it right here, he's talking about Estabrooks. And we talked about Esther Brooks on our last episode together about the hypnotism and such. And I think that plays a part in the Charles Manson stuff too, with the hypnotism. And
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Hypnotism is the Rosetta Stone of the 20th century. It's everywhere. Mass formation, psychosis
I'm glad we
is a
agree
form
on
of
that.
hypnotism. It shows up, MK Ultra, the core, all these assassins. They're actually not assassins. They're all these patsies are hypnotized. Even up to the present day, all this stuff, these guys, weird dudes after like Trump, Mangione himself. Like when you see people who go in for like treatments or surgeries and they're in there too long, something happens, like that's when you have to kind of go, oh, this is very strange.
Well, what do you think about Princess Kate? Because kind of going back to Roman Polanski, she wore like this Rosemary's Baby type outfit, and then she got put in the hospital for like an undetermined amount of time, and she had cancer, but then she didn't have cancer, and it was just all weird. And then I guess is she still in there, or did they let her out? Or I
don't
mean,
know.
this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about, though. It's like when they go in and they don't come back out, and they won't really be clear with you what's going on. You got to start to kind of wonder, you know?
No question. Like what the heck's the story? I saw her with William, the future king, supposedly with her. It's a double. It wasn't her. Somebody looked very similar to her. And then they had that AI thing where the background flowers didn't move. Like there's wind in certain things, and then the other things there. It's obviously staged. So where is she and what's going on? Did they switch her out?
Completely staged. Yeah. And something else that I was talking about with Nick from the Occult Rejects podcast. So we were talking about this last night, and the Lookout Mountain Laboratory came up because they were supposedly filming like test footage or something there, but they ended up making like thousands of classified films at this place, and you had to have top secret clearance to get into the place. And people like Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe, presidents, I mean, the list was crazy, of the people who had top secret clearance to get into this joker. And it's located right in the freaking center of the Laurel Canyon. And I spoke with an SRA survivor. Her name was Dr. Julia Engel, and she said she remembers being taken to a place that she described being like either it was the Lookout Mountain Laboratory or a similar site, and they were filming snuff films. Very clearly, that's what they were using these places for. But there is, of course, like a mainstream narrative. Oh, we're filming test footage for this or that, and they have like a mainstream narrative of what they're doing at these places. But then you take a look at the people who are on the classified list to get in there, and it's like celebrities and political people, presidents. And so you wonder, like, what are they really doing in there? And just by chance, I find this SRA survivor, and she's talking about going to a place in California. It sounds just like the Lookout Mountain Laboratory. And she's talking about how they film snuff films in there. So I can only take her at her word for that. She's written books, and she's been interviewed several times. I personally believe what she's saying is the truth, and I don't see why she'd have any reason to lie about it. I mean, it's pretty humiliating, some of the stuff that these people go through. I wouldn't want to lie about it. So, you could take that at face value, but there's stuff going on in the Laurel Canyon that will never see the light of day. And even to this day, it sounds like, with this house burning down.
Yeah, Rothschild, like a Rothschild heir, like literally. I mean, this is the link right here. This is November 28th, 2024. So it's not that long ago, a couple of months ago. Sketchy. I don't probably, he's dead. I don't think that story hit the TV here and then disappeared. I don't think there's a follow-up or like, a homeless person is found who killed a Rothschild. Like they're probably not supposed to find who did it, right? So they're not
Right.
going to
It's
find
just
out.
some random homeless person. Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, something. Who knows if they want to find somebody to blame, but it's probably like a hit.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
But
One of the interesting things about Laurel Canyon is a lot of people don't know. It's kind of like one way in. There's like one road in and one road out. So it's very
yeah,
hard to get in. It's kind of
it's secluded for
secluded is a good
sure.
word.
And people so the main place that everybody kind of flocked to was the log cabin, as it's called, Frank Zappa's home. And it's, currently or was formerly owned by Jared Leto. So if you look into that guy, I mean, geez, oh Pete, he could be his own episode even. And I
No
don't know.
question.
I mean, I just think it's like these places have some type of significance. That's why famous people want to buy these places and be around these places. And at the time when all these musicians were flocking to the canyon, there was no music scene there. There was literally no reason whatsoever for these people to be flocking to this place. The major music centers were in New York and maybe Detroit and in Nashville or Memphis. That's like Elvis Presley was Memphis, and kind of I've talked to Sean McCann from the Wake the Dead podcast about this before, but Nashville and Memphis kind of have their own Laurel Canyon situation going on. But that's where the centers for music were. There it wasn't in this part of California. So it almost makes you wonder why and how these people somehow knew about it and all flocked there at the same time and got started around the same time. And then the Vietnam War just happens to break out, and this gave birth to this counterculture movement, which all the leaders of the counterculture movement's fathers were in the military. So I mean,
Incredible.
William, I
Yeah.
mean,
Who isn't in the military, or
me.
who isn't some kind of like American aristocracy or from a rich family like Abigail Folger or
Yeah.
Crosby Van Cortlandt Park, which is connected to the Sons of Sam actually in an odd way.
Yes.
It's like so very strange. I mean, it's incredible. And I mean, it's incredible that that McGowan keyed into it so well. So many interesting things, and willing to talk about mind control and some of these other programs, which we're just getting more and more information. Like there's more and more people putting together more and more connections that made.
And it's like we were saying at the beginning of this episode, and you got like a signed copy of this book. We don't even know how valuable this information will be even in a few years from now. Like just more stuff keeps coming out, and it all starts with the canyon, and it all kind of circles around California. And it's just weird. I mean, we were talking before we started recording about how beautiful California can be. It's not like it's like a horrible place to live, but it just seems like when you look at like these Air Force bases and like weird stuff coming out of the Los Angeles area, the Laurel Canyon, it's just California seems to be a freaking hotbed for this stuff.
I think it was just because it was on the cutting edge. It was like the cusp. But California was always a place to go and experiment. So you had all these weird experimental religions and cult groups, Scientology, and all this other stuff came out of here. And then you had all these universities that were associated with us. They didn't seem to really care, like Stanford, SRI, all that stuff's up there, Northern California. And here, and I mean, UCLA, you have Jolie Rest is loitering around the whole place for decades, for 20 years. So, and the hippie music, the hippie movement,
right.
Haight-Ashbury.
And you flash forward to the 90s, you got stuff coming out of like San Diego, like Heaven's Gate cult,
right.
And just weird stuff. I mean, it's just crazy.
Right. Or the, what was it? The Liberation Group. What was the name of it? The Symbionese Liberation Army was like made
California?
up from, California. Guy was in jail. I mean, it's all put together. It's interesting. Brad Schreiber, again, another great book, Revolution's End. Highly recommend people check that out. It just shows that the Symbionese Liberation Army was kind of made up, and the guy, Sinkei, was a culture created culture, just like these guys are created. So then who's creating this? Who has the power? Who has the ability to pull the strings on these guys?
Well, and so you said the house that burnt down, it was Rothschild, right?
Correct. That's the most
not
recent
Rockefeller,
story.
but Rothschild.
Literal Rothschild, yeah.
So in this blog here that you got pulled up, I can't remember what part it is, but he dives into how one of the fathers of the counterculture movement, his name was something Paulicus, Vito Paulicus.
Yeah, Paulicus, yeah.
He was cousin-in-laws with Rothschild.
Oh wow.
And that is also in this blog. I can't remember her name, but she it was a lady who married into Vito Paulicus' family, and he then became by marriage like cousin-in-laws with the Rothschilds. So I mean, it goes really, really deep into who's pulling strings, even in the very beginning of the counterculture movement. I mean, it's weirdness.
Yeah, William D. Rothschild, long into European banking, made it all the way to LA. House is worth $1 million. And I mean, I haven't heard much about the follow-up of the story. Like 77-year-old man.
Wasn't there like a Paul Rothschild? I don't know if he was related or not, probably, but due to the last name. But he was he worked with Jim Morrison, and he was like a producer, wasn't he?
It sounds familiar.
I think his name was Paul Rothschild. But yeah, I mean, it goes deep in this area, like all the way to the tippity toppity, elite bloodline type stuff.
Yeah, like what's he doing in there?
I should pull up my notes here because it wasn't just the Rothschild, but David Crosby as well was some type of elite bloodline.
Yeah, it's the Van Cortlandt. Yeah, it's the Van Cortlandt.
Right. He was, okay, I found it in my notes here. Crosby family tree includes an array of U.S. senators and congressmen, state senators and assemblymen, governors, mayors, judges, Supreme Court justices, Revolutionary and Civil War generals, signers of the Declaration of Independence, and members of the Continental Congress, and high-ranking Masons are coming from the Crosby family tree. He was the son of a military intelligence officer, Floyd Delafield Crosby. And so, I mean, that's why I say, like, there's no freaking way that this stuff doesn't go beyond just being like catchy music.
Right. Like a random event.
Right.
Like it's cultivated or something like that.
Yeah. And it's like I said, if it didn't sound good, if it didn't work, then there would be no Laurel Canyon. But the CIA makes great music. Like the best selling music of all time.
Right. Well, whatever they're doing, like they have the best people, they can get the best people together. It's like the Beatles. They found out later that a lot of these great musicians, including Jimmy Page, were the studio musicians for the Beatles. Like it was never disclosed at that time. But like Page has admitted, yeah, I played on some of those songs. So it wasn't the Beatles. So who knows what these guys are doing. This is very common in the music industry, is like they get these like session players who are legit. These other people are fronts, Monkeys, and all these people are just fronts for, and boy bands and all that stuff. I mean, there's so many. I know a guy who's a producer, and the stories he tells, like people would be shocked at the music they listen to. It's been created by the people they think it's created by. Like, then the producers will play games with their own musicians. So like, great job, guys. Okay, you're done. And then send them home and get real musicians in and just do it. Make it sound good. Yeah, wow. That happens. Oh yeah, no, that's real. This is real. I'm not kidding. So then even the musicians think, oh yeah, I did a great job. And the producer's like, this guy can barely like hammer like two sticks together. But yeah,
Dude,
no, it's real.
they
It's real.
just need a front man to put out there for the public.
Public, sure.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's as old as the hills.
And it shouldn't surprise people at this point because we don't even have music really anymore. I mean, all the people that they put out there for us, like Taylor Swift and all that, I don't even
Katy
know if
Perry, they're not
I
writing
mean,
their own
come
music.
on.
Yeah.
They're not they're is it even music at this point? You know?
It's an
It's all
industry. They're making fat stacks. There's no question. But
right.
there's like groups of people. What theme can we have? What will resonate with the audience? Let's write that
Mhm.
song next. Churn it out.
Well,
Boom.
it makes me think of Nicholas Schreck. You know who he is, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I was watching an interview of him, and I'm pretty sure he was with Zena LeVay, who people say Taylor Swift is like reincarnated Zena LeVay or something like that. But he was talking about how, music is drenched in almost like binaural beats, pretty much. And it's more like a design than it is just like a song or something like that. And if you listen at some of the stuff that they're coming out with now, that's what it freaking sounds like. It's like almost putting you in a trance like state, and it's very repetitive. The music videos are loaded with symbolism, and it may have been a little bit more occult in the like counterculture movement, and it just kind of sounded like peace and love and flowers, but they're getting pretty obvious with the stuff at this point, and it just, to me, I think he said that in an interview in like the 80s or something, and like look where we've come since then. Even it really does sound like trance. Like, if you go back to the counterculture stuff, though, even some of the stuff that came out with like Jim Morrison and some more of the more psychedelic type songs where they have real long instrumentals, it does almost put you in kind of like a trance like state.
Right.
So, they open your mind so they can shove stuff in there. That's,
Right. Go listen to Strawberry Fields Forever. It's incredible. When you're a kid listening to that, it's much
mhm.
different as an adult and as somebody who's had a decent amount of reading into mind control, behavioral psychology. Strawberry Fields Forever is incredible. It's
Oh,
just
I
you have
know.
to listen to the lyrics and read the lyrics while you're listening to music. It's way too complex of a song for these like young kids to put
Right.
together.
Or even like a lot of people say they don't like that album. I think it was Yellow Submarine. I don't know, but like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Yeah,
I
that's
One of my
Sergeant
favorite
Pepper. Yeah,
songs, but oh, it is Sergeant
yeah,
Pepper's.
yeah,
Okay.
pretty sure.
But I a lot of people don't like their more psychedelia kind of music. I always loved it. And it's very trance like.
Look at Magical Mystery Tour. It's literally they're indoctrinating people into ceremonial magic. They have all
Mhm.
the forms, they have all the stuff from the Golden Dawn. The language is there, the complex, symbology like Crowley had. It's
Yeah.
all integrated in a way that these guys are no way they knew that. There's no
And
evidence that these guys knew that. There's no evidence that they were sophisticated musicians or lyricists, really.
mm-mm. Well, they're a perfect example of kind of like what I was talking about earlier, like with the Buddy Holly stuff, because their first stuff was freaking nothing like what they ended with at all. And then there's even at the very end, like when George wanted to leave and he was like in India or something, and he came back and they started getting real experimental with their songs.
Yeah,
I mean,
tomorrow never knows and all that stuff. Yeah.
right, yeah, and it has like kind of like I don't even know.
Sitar, those type of things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It just has a completely different sound.
And that's
Oh
always
yeah.
the occult drive is to bring the East West. And the Beatles have to be part of that as Blavatsky in the late
Hmm.
19th century, Crowley, all these guys, all these occultists are trying to do all that stuff. So
Well, yeah, and what was her name? Helena
Blavatsky,
Blavatsky
right?
was real into like Tibetan stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you do kind of see them trying to bring that over. Even the Beatles are super guilty of it. They try to bring like that the sound and the gosh,
They had one of their own kind of swamis. I forgot. My Sweet Lord is
yeah,
a
they
song by
did.
Harrison about it. Well, supposedly by Harrison.
Yeah, he almost does like a prayer or something in that
My
song.
Lord, my sweet Lord. Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
Not talking about
And
Jesus.
right, no, not at all. Somebody posted in the comments, they said look at the album covers, and I
Yeah.
do think that there is, oh yeah, take a look at the album covers, it says a lot. That the Sergeant Peppers where they're all standing over the grave, and the all the faces in the background, I'm pretty sure somebody said like Anton LaVey shows up in there. Jane Mansfield, I think there's something weird with what happened to her, she shows up in there.
Church of Satan.
Yeah, right. And there's even a dedication in Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible to Tuesday Weld, Marilyn
Wow.
Monroe, and Jane Mansfield, and they're both on that Sergeant Pepper's cover, and they're all standing over a freaking grave. It's like, dude, I think they try to tell you stuff without. Oh, and Crowley apparently is on the Sergeant Pepper
No
album
question
cover,
about it.
so
It's on the upper left. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, you get to start looking at that stuff, and I think they try to tell you stuff without, telling you stuff. And even the Abbey Road cover, they have a whole, theory about, John's in all white, George is in all the jean, and then Paul's barefoot. I do think that the real Paul probably died a long time ago, if you want my honest opinion, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
It coincides with the change in the band. So I think that
It
that's very
does.
telling. So
It does. It does.
radical change from before 66 and after 66. So I think so.
Mm-hmm.
There's very telling. I mean, the Sage of Quay interview I did with Mike Williams, I mean, they couldn't have written the Revolver album. They were on tour, and I mean, they're in different places. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
way that, I mean, they create these songs and have it out at the same time while they were on the road. So they're not working on it. Somebody else is. So I think
Right.
that's very telling.
So were you were a Beatles guy and not a Stones guy? Then I'm gonna take it.
Oh, I just remember growing up, like you listen to the pop music. So I remember being in my teens going through some of the old classics, and one classic was the Beatles, White Album, College, a little bit of the
Mm-hmm.
Stones, Doors. You kind of Led Zeppelin, but I don't know. You didn't understand. You're kind of taking it in as a kid. You're more
Right.
suggestible when you're a teen, so you're kind
Yeah.
of taking
Yeah.
that stuff in. And now I'm like, I can't even believe I was listening to this stuff. Wow, this is
I know. I
crazy.
know. Same.
It's a mind.
Because.
Strawberry Fields Forever is like a mind control incantation. It's incredible. The guy does. I think I can. I mean, you have to listen to those lyrics. They'll creep you out. I think I might be, but I'm not sure. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
talking like his brain is dissolving. Like it is incredible. No, go listen to it. I'm not
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah. I even point out stuff from like I Am the Walrus. Because John had a big heart on for Lewis Carroll, who was a notorious pedophile,
He's like a
and
he's like a like almost like a totem for pedophiles. This
oh,
Carol in the
for
story. So
sure,
like
for
all the
sure.
pedophiles know him of him. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, oh look, it says Dark Side of the Moon, rock group Journey with their Egypt related images, Iron Maiden. I would even go as far as saying ELO. If you look at some of their album covers and they have like that futuristic sound, I absolutely love ELO. But even some of their lyrics, I was talking to Nick from the Occult Rejects. They got some stuff going on in there too, and that's a band that people leave out sometimes is ELO. But they were probably all occultists, if I'm just being honest with you.
When you get into it, you kind of realize there's a lot more going on. There's no question about it.
100%. But it
Julia,
sounds good.
we are at the 90-minute mark. Where can people find your podcast, and what have you been working on, and what are you working on in the future?
Thanks for having me first
Thank
off.
you. Yeah.
So I'm Julia. I host the Cosmic Peach podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. It's not on YouTube because I don't like to censor myself, and I already had a bunch of strikes, so it's not on there. You won't find it on there. If you want extra bonus stuff or early access to anything that I'm working on, I do have Patreon. and you can search for that, just looking for Cosmic Peach podcast. And right now, I'm glad you asked. I'm actually working on a 3-part series, The Dark Side of the 90s. And so I'm going to be diving into pop culture events, movies, music, everything, the grunge movement that came out of the 90s. And that's going to drop for Patreon members at the end of this month. For non-Patreon members, it's going to come out in February. So like I was saying earlier, a lot of crazy stuff happened in the 90s, Heaven's Gate cult, and just some crazy stuff like that. So you can look forward to that if you are subscribed to the Cosmic Peach podcast. And I love having William on every now and again.
Yeah.
We've talked about all
no
kinds
trouble.
of crazy
Yeah.
stuff together.
Yeah, we have.
And we seem to have similar interests in a lot of
Yeah,
our topics.
We
So
definitely synced up. There's a lot I could talk to you about on other subjects as well. But it's great to have you on. It's great to talk with you again. We covered kind of weird scenes and the weird scenes death list and how crazy it was in the 60s and 70s. So many suspicious deaths. A lot of those I don't believe are
right
there.
It's not how they've made it out to be. And anytime I talk about the Laurel Canyon, I try to bring a little bit something different to the table every time. So I think, if you want a whole entire rabbit hole in and of itself, check out John Denver, and some of the stuff he was into.
That's another story. Some of these guys have really interesting backgrounds. Like, wow,
who
would have thought Denver, like Roswell and all that stuff. All right, Lindsay, Cosmic Peach, thanks so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Stay there. I have to go